Hey guys, Bart the Nature Guy here. It is a beautiful January day. It is still pretty snowless for Minnesota this time of year, but it makes for some easy walking and kind of exploring in the woods, where sometimes these snow depths get into that kind of 1 to 2 foot category where it's like a high step to kind of get yourself kind of back in there a ways, or you run into some big drifts. But right now, it's a great time to be out there and explore the ground because it's been pretty warm. Most of the snow is pretty crusty, and so it's not the noise level that we're creating as humans as we kind of walk across this crust. When I take a big old step here, that's for being out in the woods. That's really loud. So everybody's going, every being is going to know you're walking through the woods. So the chances of seeing like a deer or a squirrel or something as you're walking, depending on how busy it is where you are and how kind of like how used they are to humans, it's going to be pretty slim. It's going to take some time to really settle in and be quiet and still for a while before things kind of come back because our walking right now is just we're going to sound like a giant coming through the woods with this crusty surface. So today I was just kind of walking through it and wanted to take some time for self and some self-care, and we do our breathing and use our five senses, and kind of bring ourselves to this nature invitation today, which is called catching a catch. And if some of you know what a catch is, the CACHE, the catch, is where oftentimes people store food. And so a lot of times there's, especially like when I've been in Alaska, there's a lot of imagery around like these kind of almost like little buildings on the top of stilts, and it's basically meant to keep animals away from food. And they call it a catch. And animals have catches. So if animals, especially large predators, are very common. If they catch something, they're going to go store it someplace, and they're going to create a catch. And so that may mean that they bury their food. But in the wintertime here, especially with the new, if we get new snow, it's super fun. But also right now, I ran into a couple little catches of some beings in the woods, most likely some squirrels, and so I wanted to show those to you. And so our invitation is like for today in the nature kind of engagement is just seeing if you can find any catches, little spots where animals have held food. If you happen to have a bird feeder or a common place where animals come to in your yard, maybe it's watching where they go with that food. Watching maybe if there's a way that you can find out what they do with that food to store it. Because if we get all of a sudden a big set of snow come through, it makes it that much more difficult for them. And there's also this, and we won't see it right now because the snow is pretty low, but once that snow builds up, there's actually almost like a little space that will be created between the earth and the snow, and there's a lot of like voles and mice and even red squirrels and stuff that kind of have their own little tunnel system underneath this snow blanket that we live in for a few months, and they have their own little world underneath all this. So when you're seeing the snow, just know there's lots of times trails and paths and food catches all surrounded back in here, things that are kind of subsurface, and that's a super cool thing to, if you're able to find kind of a lead into those, that can be really cool. As it's melting right now, as we've had the kind of warm temperatures, we might see those as well. So that is what I kind of wanted to run through today. So, but I like to run through our five senses here. So bringing ourselves to center by just take a few breaths for ourselves. Inhaling through the nostrils, exhaling through the nose or mouth. Just taking a few focused breaths. All right, and now we'll engage the senses of our ears. What do you hear? One thing I always listen to is like maybe what's the thing that you hear furthest away? Maybe something that you hear close, and maybe you don't hear anything. Maybe it's the neighbors in the apartment above you. That's the thing that you're hearing right now. And now we'll do the sense of smell. I feel like I can almost smell the snow today. And now we'll do the sense of sight. And I got drawn kind of towards the top there. And looking at how all those branches contrast against the gray sky. And now for a sense of touch. And touch doesn't have to be like using our hands. I mean, you can just, that sense of cold. I got a light breeze coming in on the left side of my face right now. And kind of feeling that difference between what's hitting my face here, but maybe like, you know, my neck is kind of covered up with a little bit of a wool gaiter right now. And so that's a very different feeling with the protection of that wool and keeping my heat there. So kind of like that contrast line right here that's kind of created just by having a little bit of covering. So engage that sense of touch, whether it be warm or cold, dry or wet. Might be picking up some snow. Lots of great icicles around. Maybe you see one nearby. A beautiful bark on that tree. The ridges on that tree look so deep, it almost looks like you could like put your feet in there and try to climb it, even though that usually doesn't work. But you know, those ridges right there, just like looks like you could just grab into them. If you've ever done any rock climbing before, generally doesn't work out so well because it's mostly all vertical lines and it's kind of tough to get your hands in there and your feet in there. But and also in this branch right here, just on to change the subject, you can almost see those new buds ready for the spring to arrive. And they're just sitting dormant right now, just kind of waiting for that spring sun and that runoff and all that great water that will come to those roots here soon enough. And we'll be back into spring pretty soon. And that last sense that we engage right now for today, at least, is the sense of taste. And drawing in that air over your tongue. And taking just a few breaths just to engage that sense of taste in the outdoors. I've said it before, but it was the one that, when I was doing the work to become a forest therapy guide, it was the one that kind of caught me off guard. And it took me a while to kind of get used to, but now it's actually one of the ones, that, kind of 5 senses that I actually enjoy the most. And so, you know, the first time they were like, taste the air, I was like, what? Okay, I'll give it a shot. And like, stick your tongue out a little bit. And now actually, it's one of the things I actually get. It's such a different sensation every time, because especially in the summer, you know, it's like the difference between, you know, having sun beat down on your skin and where it is right now. It's like that different, like drawing in that kind of warm, humid air of summer versus this cold, crisp air. It definitely changes that sensation that occurs by tasting the air. I like hearing that sound too. It lets me know that that's what I'm doing and it's intentional. It's a conscious act that I'm creating for myself for just that brief moment. So, and as we're moving forward, I'm going to move us down to these little catches. And so again, a catch is kind of a place of stored food. In Alaskan culture, you'll see a lot of, and I only bring that up because it's something that I know and something that I've seen, is these long, like 10-foot little like shacks at the top of these poles. And they usually will have a ladder that they bring away from it, so obviously animals can't get up there, but it's a secured location for food storage. Animals will do that as well. And oftentimes we hear of like squirrels burying a nut, you know, like I'm in this oak forest right now, and lots of acorns around here, and I am finding, as I'm walking through the woods, these little holes about the size of a, I don't know, tennis ball or so. And you can tell where a squirrel has kind of gone in and dug out what it had saved for later. So they have a keen sense of where they place things. They have catches all over, scattered to make sure that they can make it through winter with enough nutrients. And so they do that by kind of saving food, because this time of year, especially for a lot of animals, there's just not a lot here. And so they have to do some preparation and planning. And as we're getting into our backpacking topic, that kind of goes along with it, which is you have to plan and prepare to get through your trip and your backpacking trip without gathering a lot of food along the way. You're going to have to store some on your back for a few days for that adventure. So we're going to look for a catch right now. I found one. I'm going to see if I can find another one. But if you can see this right here. Can you see that hole? Right there. There's a little dirt mound you can see way down into that hole there. And it's about the size of my hand. And you can see all the debris brought out by the squirrel. And I'll see if I can find another one here. There's lots of little holes, but not all of them have things around them. And in the wintertime, if you're like, are there even squirrels around here? A really good thing to check is like these bigger trees. The squirrels definitely have routes and stuff that they use. And at the bottom here, you can see how it's kind of dirty. I can also see little spots where they have peed. And you can see some little pieces of nut. There's a little piece of acorn on top of the snow. That's a big clue, right? Big clue that there's a squirrel eating something around here recently. It's not covered by the snow. And so we're in the middle of January and you see there's another one right here. There's an acorn on the top of the snow. And that's another clue that, there's a nearby, a squirrel nearby that's, I'll pull my hat down a little bit. It's getting a little chilly. And here's another catch over here. This one's big. It's got a lot of the leaves. This is another thing. If you're seeing a bunch of grass and all of a sudden out of nowhere, there's a whole pile of leaves right there. There's another little catch. So, the nature invitation today, or for this week for classes, is see if you can catch a glimpse of a catch. So that's it. Bart the Nature Guy. Peace out. Take care, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. Hope to see y'all soon in person, but you know how that goes. It's COVID. And being outdoors is great, as well as for easy social distancing, and gives you a little break from that home life too, when we're doing a lot of our classwork and stuff from inside. So take care, everybody.